Hi guys, I wanted to talk for a while about the best flippers, the smoothest flippers really. What are my favorite ones around right now? I really have two that are my favorite at the moment. One's kind of old school, one's kind of new school. Number one, of course, you guys have seen this a couple times already, the ProTech Malibu. I'm not really a huge flipper fan, to be honest. I kind of like the old thumb stud method. I think it's still the best, but this thing is really, really smooth. And I didn't really know what a smooth flipper was until I got one of these, basically. There is zero friction. When the detent is just flawless. It's so perfect. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It's heavier than you think it would be, because that's what it should be. Because I hate a light detent, guys, especially on a flipper. A light detent, with this detent you can build up just the right amount of force to throw the blade all the way out. If it was too light, you would get, partial deployments, because you can't build up enough force in your finger to get it all the way open, and it would just go part of the way out. And then a detent that's too heavy, while being secure and offering, I guess, good flipping, it's not as fidgety, because you find yourself struggling to get the thing open. This thing is perfect. Once you get past the detent, there is just no friction. It's just, you can't really hear anything even. You can't hear any kind of friction. It's just, they just got it so right. It really is really, really slick. It's the slickest knife that I think that I own. But let me show you the other competitor. Here's the old school one. I haven't shown this, but you've seen these 100 times before. The ZT0450, right? Now, that still feels really good, and you really throw the blade out there. It's nice and thin. You could use your middle finger, you could get some thumb action in there. And really, this knife probably compares against the Malibu as good as any two knives that I have. The ZT is thinner. It's fabulously thin, really. But I mean, look at the height, guys. They're about the same height. The ZT is a little less wide. This way, the grip. The Malibu, I'd say, by the way, it's a more generic, less restrictive grip, and I can get all four fingers on there, pretty easily. The ZT, however, it has this hump at the bottom, and why is this hump here? I wish it should be, I think it should be not there, or lower, bring it lower, because for me, I don't have really big hands, but I just barely fit all four of my fingers on here, and I have no movement to go up or down. I wish that this hump would either be smaller or a little bit higher, and I wish that this hump would be smaller or a little bit lower, because I want to grip it like this, and you see my pinky is off the thing, or right on the hump. If that wasn't there or it was lower, my grip would feel perfect, but I have to shift up, and my four fingers are crammed on here. And now there's really only one way to grip this knife, and it is with those fingers crammed in there, and your thumb has to be choked up on the jimping. At least the jimping's really good. It's really nice and smooth. But you can only really hold this knife one way and feel comfortable. If you're cutting open just a small box, whatever. You're only going to hold it for 10 seconds. But yeah. But you can tell that this is a 2014, or whenever this was designed, I want to say. There's my reflection there, yep. But it's a good knife. The problem is, not that it's a problem, but it's a frame lock. Frame locks, guys, I'm not crazy about them. Frame locks, liner locks, frame locks even more so, because they affect your grip. I've seen some videos of guys complaining about frame locks where they can't open it because when they're opening it, their index finger is pressing up against the lock in, so then their thumb and their index finger or middle finger are fighting each other. That doesn't happen to me. But the consequence of having a frame lock like this is that when the knife opens, and I probably won't be able to actually get it, but you could see that detent right above the tip of my thumb here. See that little divot sticking up? That's the detent. And number one, it doesn't have a ball detent ramp here. So it's kind of like, you know, with the PM2, once you get it moved over a little bit, it'll go. And now you could see here how the detent, when I try to close the blade, I didn't open the lock sufficiently to let the whole of the blade go above the detent. So now you're fighting the detent, you know, until you either push hard enough that it'll ride over the detent and that the radius of the detent will be enough to push the frame lock. Well, guess what? Now your fingers are in the way. So you have to make sure that you push the knife over enough so that it gets over that detent. And then you move your fingers out of the way, and that's pretty cool. I guess it's pretty slick then, but besides that problem of not having the ball detent ramp, you can feel the friction of the detent riding against the knife as it opens. Like it's not frictionless opening like the Malibu is. This isn't a problem. I mean, come on, it's not really going to affect performance. But if we're talking about fidget factor here, if you open and close this knife a lot, you know, this might have been great in maybe even 2018, but it's not fidgety anymore. You know, the times have kind of passed it by maybe. Now, there's one thing that I've been thinking about, and it's not going to make the opening any smoother, but what if there was a way to make this drop shutty, okay? So that it doesn't, yeah, maybe it's a frame lock, but it interfaces like it's a compression lock, right? A Spyderco compression lock. There's a little tab in between the liners here, and you push it over to the side and the knife drops free. So I am not a 3D printer, guys. I'm not like a industrial design guy. I'm really thinking about this design, but I really don't have the means to produce it. So I'm wondering if somebody else has an idea. And here's my idea. Sorry about the focusing. You see here where my thumb is, right? This little screw right here is on the frame. And it's on the lock, rather, the frame lock. And it's pretty close to the rest of the frame. So what I'm thinking here is you get some kind of, it would have to be a strong piece of metal, like it might even have to be titanium, I'm not sure, because it couldn't flex and it couldn't wear out. That's what we want. It cannot flex and it cannot wear out. But it's essentially wedge shaped. And so the idea is there's a little tab back here on the frame, and it sticks up and out a little bit, up this way, up off the knife, right? And it's kind of roughly L-shaped like this, and it sticks up off the knife, and the bend of the L is pressing up against the frame, not against the frame lock, but up against the frame. And then the other end of it goes underneath this screw, right? Like, so you can imagine like essentially a washer that goes underneath this screw, right? So that if you were to press this tab, it would essentially rock the washer up and pull this frame lock mechanism up away from the blade. So basically, instead of, let me switch hands here, instead of actuating the lock with your thumb like that to pull it up, you would open it and then use your index finger back here to press down on a tab, and that tab would be attached to this washer that would essentially pull the lock up. So it would kind of simulate I guess it wouldn't be quite like the interface of a compression lock, but the idea is, you know, you press this tab and then the blade just drops free. Now you have a frame lock that's a drop-free frame lock. You don't have to put your hands in the blade, and it becomes fidgety. This now becomes an actual serious competitor for Fidget Factory knives. It's not gonna beat the Malibu because it's just not as slick, but I don't know, man. I mean, a little tab, if you could throw this knife around, open and close it like this with the Malibu, you know, except instead of pressing the button lock, there's like a little tab on the back. And if you could just open, shut, the ZTO 450 might be revived as something that's truly fidgety. All right. Two more quick things. One of the most popular knives is the Elementum. And I'm going to pause this for a moment while I flip the record. I don't know particularly why I chose Al Green today. It's not like I'm having an after dinner glass of wine with my girlfriend or something. It's just the record that I had, and it's great. Anyway, this is the D2 Civivi Elementum. This is new to me, and I got the olive green micarta grips. You know what though, guys? I'm gonna return this knife. It's just so boring, honestly. There's nothing bad about it. It's fine. You know, the machining is fine. By the way, I understand that there's an upgraded version that has, I don't know, is it S30V? There's another version, because I think I paid like $50 for this, but for like $75, it's like only $22 or $28 more or something. You can get it in, I don't know if it was S30V or maybe something even better. It might have been S35. I think it was S35 actually. If you're into Elementums, just skip this and go straight to the S35. This has less friction opening than the ZT, but it's a liner lock. Now you're not fighting against the frame with a liner lock like you are with a frame lock, but it's hard to hit this thing. Like, again, there's nothing particularly wrong with this. It's a good detent. You know, the grind is really fun. Really nice polish on it. Not mirror polish, it's the nice satin polish, which I like. It's kind of my favorite. Really nice, well machined. There's nothing stellar about this though. It's just so boring, honestly. I can't stand it. The liner is really buried deep in there. You really have to, you see the detent on my thumb, but you really got to reach in there for it, and you really can't fidget this knife. I mean, you can, but yeah, luckily Amazon lets you return stuff and not have to really worry about it. I really wanted to talk more about the flipping action and the fidgetiness of flippers today, like the ZT and the Malibu, and what we could do to improve the ZT. I was trying to think of, is there something that we can do that we can make it look like a compression lock? It won't actually be one, but interface like a compression lock, where there's a tab in here, and that will somehow force the liner out. But then you'd really be having to get underneath the blade. At least with a frame lock, you can access the locking mechanism from an outside, like on a ZT. But I don't think this one can be improved. I know Civivi tried to do the button lock one, which was a total disaster. I get what they're going for, but at this price point, you know, I have to give it to them. They offer this at such a nice price point, and I just don't think that Civivi has it in them to be able to design a really good flipper button lock at that price point. To get the detent tuned well is something that would I think take R&D or manpower, and to keep producing it consistently. Like, guys, ProTech can't just hit the print button on this and just print out 4,000 knives to, you know, that's why they're so hard to come by. It's not just that the demand is high. It's like there's a reason this is an expensive knife. It takes time and energy. It took R&D to design it, and it takes a high degree of precision to make it as well as they are made. And I just don't think that Civivi has the ability to produce that high precision in instrument while still remaining in the, you know, $40 to $70 range. Maybe WE knives, if they're going to sell it for $150, maybe they could pull it off. But if you followed what Civivi did with their button lock, it was a button lock, but it was a button opening. It was kind of like if you think of the button lock ProTech Sprint that I have. You know, it's a button opening and button closed, except that it's not spring loaded, right? But you would have to, there's no flipper and there's no thumb stud. And even if there was, there's no detent in here. It's locked closed. And you would have to hit the button and then gesture it open, really flick it out. No one wants to do that, you know. You really just, if you inertia open a knife like that, and then, you know, flick it real close real quick like that in the lunchroom, you're going to scare Barbara, and she's going to go to HR. So, Civivi, most people would call this a home run. I call it a single, you know, drives in the runner on third base, but I will actually be, I'm not even going to try to sell it. I'm just going to return it, because at least I can get the purchase price back. Yep. I love the Pocket Clip Go, by the way. They're the only ones doing this right now, besides ProTech. Or no, I feel like I've seen more and more companies doing this now. But for a smaller knife, one that you want to conceal, pocket clip that goes all the way up to the tip of the frame, and the screws are recessed inside. So you get as deep a concealment as possible, and the screws are not pushing against the inside of your pocket. This is not a competitor for best flipper. There's something about this Kershaw leak, or no, this is the frig is it? The Scallion, sorry. I have a couple of these. This is not a fair comparison in my opinion because this is spring assisted. So it is an effortless open, really. I mean, I'm barely touching it. So if you're gonna call that a detent, great detent. But like I was saying with Civivi, to get a really good flipper built with a really good tuned detent, it's hard to do at a low price. That's why Kershaw has this speed safe opening. That's their way to get around that. That's their way to deliver something that always opens completely and reliably with a light flipper cheaply. That's how they do it. I'm sure that they could build a good flipper like the Malibu, but they couldn't do it for $40. It would be $140. And in fact, you see ZT. This is all part of what do they call it? KA, right? Focus, damn it. Right? KA. ZT is the I don't want to say the big brother company to Kershaw, but it's like if this was the Acura, Kershaw is the Honda, but they're the same parent company. So they probably share a lot of hardware. Like they probably share a lot of pocket clips. They share a lot of screws, different materials, probably different the same manufacturing facilities, what have you. But what does an 0450 go for now? 120 maybe? I'm not really sure. But that's an outdated design. And the way that Kershaw got around having to deliver a really precise and tightly manufactured flipper is to put the spring assist mechanism in it. And so that's why I don't think it's a fair comparison. I do like, though, that they also included the thumb studs, because that's still actually my favorite way to do it. Real quick, this liner is much easier to get to than the Civivi's is. So there's a reason that I bought 3 of these. These are, I think, between $35 and $45, I think, depending on the version that you get. There's a reason that I bought 3 of these. Because, first of all, they're basically disposable. I mean, they're not D2 steel. They're some kind of 8CR or something, 5CR. Not really sure. These are basically disposable. If you had to dig a round out of a tree or something like that and you needed to use a pry tool, I wouldn't really care if I broke the tip off of this because I got 2 other ones. And I could replace it, I could still use it even without the tip. If I broke the tip off the 0450, I would be pissed at myself, so I wouldn't even use it as a prying tool. This is something you could really just throw around. Anyway, to summarize, I don't have that many flippers, but in order, in rank order, number 1, the Malibu reigns supreme. Everything that you've heard about it being fidgety, and it's all true. It really is. Once you learn, I mean, if you're new at it, you might not time because you do have to release the button lock when the knife gets to the bottom, and if you don't time it right, or if your finger gets in the way of the flipper as it swings back again, those are pretty common problems. But once you get the timing down, nothing is faster. I mean, even a double action Microtech, like an Ultratech, I mean, this could even be faster than that. You try to open and close an Ultratech, this could honestly be faster in terms of open and close this knife 10 times. You might do it faster with a Malibu than with any other knife out there. 0450, great knife. Not much bad to say about it, except that it's just, a dated design. And then I'm going, I would actually go Leek. I don't own a Leek, but I like the Leeks a lot. The Leek is probably better. It's a straighter edge, So I'm just going to say leek, scallion. They're both Canonians. Any of the Canonians that have the speed safe, I'm kind of they're all the same. Then I'm sorry guys, last is the Elementum. It's just boring to me. Nothing bad about it, nothing good about it. It's like a 62-degree cloudy day, which is what it is in San Francisco every day. So that's it.